Welcome to our Skills Review 3 lesson video. This is going to be about distance and midpoint. Now, distance and midpoint is a topic that I expect most of you to be comfortable and familiar with, so hopefully this will be a quick review video, but it is something that a number of you do struggle with at times and have since Math 2. So please take out your notebooks. Let's get ready to take some notes. So when you're talking about distance formula, really the first thing you have to talk about is Pythagorean theorem, because the distance formula is directly derived from the Pythagorean theorem. It's saying that if I have a point here and a point here, the distance between them can be found by making our problem into a right triangle. So if we take these two legs, A and B, they're called the legs, and we square them and add them together, they will always be equal to the length of the side across from the 90-degree angle, the hypotenuse squared as well. As we move on into this lesson, you'll see that one thing that we're doing a lot right now in Trig is directly related to this Pythagorean theorem. All right, so the distance formula looks like this. Rather than being a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we rewrite it a little bit differently. We say the distance between 2 points, A and B, is equal to the square root of the x values subtracted squared plus the y value subtracted squared. So the x value subtracted squared, that's going to give you this distance, this horizontal distance. The y value subtracted and squared, that's going to give you this vertical distance right here. And so we're squaring those and adding them together, and then we're taking the square root. The square root comes from, we got rid of the squared on this side and made it a square root on the other side. So that'll end up giving us just the length of this purple piece right here. All right, so let's go ahead and try it. So what we're going to do to find the distance here, let's go ahead and take the x values, 5, and we're going to subtract the other x value, 9. So we'll call this x1 and we'll call this one x2. So 5 minus 9, we're going to square it, and we're going to add that to, we'll call this one y1 and this one y2. We'll subtract the y value, so it'll be negative 2 minus 3. We'll square that as well. Then what we'll do is we'll take the square root of that whole thing and simplify it when we can. So 5 minus 9, that's negative 4 squared, plus negative 2 minus 3, that's negative 5 squared. We're taking the square root of that whole thing. Negative 4 squared is 16, negative 5 squared is 25. Remember, whenever you square something, so after this squaring step, both of your values here should be positive. So this is positive 16 plus positive 25. You should never be adding a negative number or subtracting a negative number inside this square root at this point of this problem. Combine those together, that's going to be the square root of 41. And in this case, the square root of 41 cannot simplify. But in the real world, that doesn't necessarily give us much of information about the actual length between these 2 points. So if you pull out a calculator, you can simplify that down to be 6.4 units. So the distance between those 2 points is about 6.4 units. Now, if I asked you for the exact answer, square root of 41, perfect. If you just wanted to estimate, like if you were like going to a store to buy a length of something, you wouldn't tell them square root of 41, you would tell them 6.4. All right, now what this is directly related to is what we're doing in Trig. When we are finding the r value of an angle, so here's our initial side, here's our terminal side, this is our x value, this is our y value. When we're finding our r value here, that's just Pythagorean theorem, right? Remember, our formula goes like this. Our formula goes r equals x squared plus y squared square rooted. That's just the distance formula. It's no different than what we were just doing for the distance formula. The r value, the hypotenuse for our right triangle when we're doing our trig problems, is just the x value squared plus the y value squared, taking the square root. That's distance formula, and that's why it's important to make sure we really know how to do this. All right. Second thing for today is the midpoint formula. It's important to also be able to find a midpoint of a line. To find the midpoint of the line, you're really finding the average of the x values. You add the two x's together and divide by 2. And the average of the y values. Add the two y values together and divide by 2. Average is often kind of a way to think about the middle. So if I find the averages of them, I should be able to find the middle point between them. So we've got to be able to find that middle point. We're going to find the average of the x's and the average of the y's. All right, let's go ahead and find this. We're going to do two types of problems. The first type of problem here is finding the midpoint. So we're given the two endpoints, A and B, and we're going to find the midpoint. So we'll take the x values, 5 plus 9, divide by 2, comma. So remember, it's a point, so we gotta write it as a point, and negative 2 plus 3 over 2. We'll simplify those two expressions down. 5 plus 9 is 14. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And then negative 2 plus 3 is 1. 1 divided by 2, you could write 0.5 if you want, but I prefer to just leave stuff in fraction form, so 1/2. So our middle point, the point in the middle of A and B here, is 7, 1/2. All right, now another type of problem you might see is this one where I give you the midpoint and the endpoint, and you have to find the other endpoint. So the way you kind of think about this is you think about this a little bit differently. Rather than me giving you the x values, both the x values, I gave you one of the x values. I gave you 6 plus some other x value divided by 2 is going to result in the midpoint value of 2. And then for the y values, similar thing's going to happen. 11 plus some other y value, so B was my endpoint, that's where I got that 6 and 11 from, divided by 2 is going to result in the y value of our midpoint, which is 7. So what we have here is we have two little problems we can solve. We have 6 plus x over 2 equals 2. We can solve that. We have 11 plus y over 2 equals 7. All right, we solve this first one. We're going to multiply that 2 over, that is 4. Subtract a 6, we get x is negative 2. Then this one, we're going to multiply the 2 over, that's 14. 14 minus 11 is 3, so that gives us 3. So our answer here is that the other endpoint A is at negative 2, 3. That would be the other endpoint if we had a midpoint of 2, 7. So they gave us one endpoint in the middle, and we found this would have to be the other endpoint for that to be the middle. All right, that does it for our lesson. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'd be glad to help you out. Otherwise, I'll see you in our next live session, and I hope you have a great day.